We're back with another episode of Franchise My Business, a podcast for franchisors hosted by franchisors. I'm your host, Kevin Oldham, and today we are going to talk about fundraising for basically a lot of different things, but really around sports. You know, if you think about times that maybe kids are in your neighborhood or whatever trying to raise money for their football team or all these things, we've got a phenomenal gentleman on the phone today. He's not on the phone. He's on the podcast, right? Who does he's on the phone? But anyway, Mike Bahun, he is the founder of Fundraising U. He's a lifelong coach. You know, he's growing a brand to help enrich students and growth for our youth and communities. I can't wait to just dive right into this. Mike, welcome to the show, man.
Thanks, Kevin. I appreciate you having me here.
It's my pleasure. It's my pleasure. I want to, before we dig into your franchising journey, maybe just give our audience an overview of specifically what problem you guys are solving and the value that you're creating at Fundraising University.
Yeah. So the problem that we solve is we go into schools, mostly high schools, sometimes smaller colleges, youth clubs, sports teams, academies, bands, choirs, cheers. And we solve the problem by having a professional service where we're going to help them raise money for their particular group. Most of them are operating at about only 30% funded by the school. So we're going to come in and close that gap with a professional service and have somebody on campus.
I love it. And what does that look like, having somebody on campus? Doesn't it sound like I think about the fundraisers in my community, the football players will come and they'll have like these, the cards with all the discounts from local merchants and things like that. Like how does that work, having somebody on campus, and what do these fundraising efforts look like? Are you doing punch cards, or how are you generating the cash that is needed for these programs?
Yeah, good. It's a good question because I think that it needs to be demystified a little bit. So a lot of people see it as a product business, and exactly how you saw it. You're selling cards, you're selling cookies, and those are some things we do, and I'll answer to that. But really what gives the results to the schools and to those athletes and coaches is the execution of the system. Like, I'm a college baseball coach, right? And what makes a great hitter is not his swing, it's his approach. It's how he goes through the different dynamics of setting himself up for success. That's what we do when we bring in that service. And there's 5 key dynamics to bring to the fundraising system. And the products are just facilitators of basically a kid walking up to somebody and saying, would you help and support me? Because that's what people say yes to. So we facilitate that in a very genuine way. And then we give them the most modern tools to do most of that digitally. And then the last part of your question is we do crowdfunding, but we do text messages where they just do a 1-hour program. And then we also have consumable products because some people like those. And then we do the discounts but ours are digital, and they have 800,000 national merchants. So
cool.
Yeah.
I love the fact that it's digital too, because we've always got those cards laid around in our junk area in the kitchen, and they never get utilized, right? And it's not that we get them to utilize them. Like, that's typically there's like 1 or 2 places that we would go, but being able to take that digital and have some national, opportunities for people probably makes it so that these things are a little bit easier to sell.
Right. Yeah. They're easier to sell, and they'll be naturally annuitized because people will see the value, like you said. I mean, typically with the printed versions, 89% of them are used the first 21 days, and it's for the same reason that you have. They just set them down, and now that they're on their phone as a mobile device, then we're going to see people engaged. And because it's digital, in Lee Summit, if you're working with an area in a particular school district, you can go out and ask those people to help and support you. But with us, everybody's a customer because we can get them a card digitally.
That's awesome, man. That's really, really cool. So you've figured out how to systematically execute this and install these into a community. How did you go about building your prototype, which now led to the franchising? Like, let's talk, because the origin story is it's actually my most favorite part of any entrepreneur's journey, because everybody's is like unique. And a lot of times people think that we have this crystal clear roadmap and we adhere to the roadmap and nothing goes wrong. And in my experience, I don't know about yours, but the roadmap is always a great hypothesis. But once you get market feedback, it's going to it's going to change generally substantially. So
Sure.
like, how did you determine that, man, we're going to go do this? And what did your first prototype look like?
Yeah, honestly, it was in 3 phases. Like, so Fundraising University was really birthed when I was a young person, right? Because I was the inner city kid, to your story thing, from a single parent family. I mean, you talk about a bad environment and anything someone could see, I've seen it, right? And so sports were my salvation. And so the passion for Fundraising University was birthed knowing that there's a million kids like me out there that need this student athlete experience. They need those leaders and those teachers and coaches in schools. I didn't realize that till about 2 years ago. It started then. And then as a high school baseball coach, I did the fundraising. And as someone who, had a background in business, just wanted to figure out a way to be involved in coaches and athletics, but there wasn't a lot of upside as a teacher. And so I did it as a teacher or as a coach, not a teacher. I was part of a national company. And then the evolution of it was, as I always felt like as a coach, there was a higher level way to do this. And so we've been at this for 23 years. And those 3 phases of that were, a regional brand. And then, like you said, the roadmap changed. I just was more growth driven than being a regional brand. So I spent 4 years to become a franchise system. We started that in 2020. And then you're right, the roadmap changed because now you're a national company. So everything's different. And then we launched the franchise system in March of 2020 with 10 locations. And now we're at 75. And we're really picking up some steam. And we've got great people that want to go into schools and help people.
Interesting timing, March 2020.
Yeah.
We all know what happened in that period of time. And it seems like your guys' business is heavily dependent on people going and doing stuff, sports, right? Mm-hmm. What did that look like?
Yeah, there was a couple things, right? Like, I think it gave us all a better appreciation that we had a chance to be involved in sports and that we had schools. Mm-hmm. I think that was one thing, because you saw the sports participation go up. You saw the respect for teachers and coaches on a lot of level increase. Mm-hmm. But what it did is it forced a lot of professionals to work from home. Right. And it gave them an idea and it allowed them to consider what that might look like to maintain that. And that was tremendous for what we do, because we're a work from home model that's less than $100,000 investment to start. And so that was actually a weird blessing in disguise for us. And then what came out of that was the schools need more money than ever now.
So it ended up being really good for you guys. Mm-hmm. And your franchisees. That's really cool. You could have gone either way. I wasn't sure what answer I was going to hear. Because literally, I know my kids didn't get back to playing some of those sports, for a while. They weren't actually having them, and I'm like, all right, if sports are shut down, what does that mean for the fundraising component? So you had somebody looking down on the prosperity of your company, and that ended up being a really, really good thing for you. So congratulations that you got lucky, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Seems like you get a lot luckier if you work hard.
Yeah. Absolutely. So I love the home-based business aspect. What that means to me, I think for anybody who, flies the flag of Fundraising U, is low overhead, a pretty simple type of business, right? Mm-hmm. I'm assuming infrastructure that they need is a laptop. I mean, is that really what it takes to run one of these?
Maybe even just their phone at this point, because our CRM
just their phone.
We have our own technology that redistributes the digital products.
Really? Mm-hmm. Did you guys build your own system, your own technology, or did you license something? Or
we just I started a separate entity, and we obviously had the ability to test and pilot and demonstrate and work with coaches on intimate levels. And so we got through that 2-year learning curve. And again, to your roadmap thing, that's another big one that you can't plan that. You think you can. And so we're past that now too. And that feels really great.
Let's talk about that, because a lot of franchisors, I think, they think that they need to build technology for their thing. I mean, we went through at our last company. We took over a 90-year-old or 80-year-old brand at that point in time. And phase one was to go get something off the shelf and tune it for our needs, while behind the scenes, we were executing on like a 10-year roadmap to basically transform the rural real estate space. There's a lot of lessons to be learned when you go about developing your own technology into your business if you've never done that before. Yes. I always tell people to try and find something that's already there in the early stages, because taking on a software development project along with building your franchise system is really two startups in one, right? Two separate, completely different teams. Oh yeah. I mean, it's huge, right? It's a big lift. I'm assuming that you guys developed software because there wasn't anything out there that met your needs off the shelf, right? And helps build enterprise value and was probably very sticky for your franchisees. But maybe if somebody is evaluating, they're at this crossroads, they're a franchisor, they're thinking about taking on a software development project, maybe what's one piece of counsel that you would give to those folks?
Yeah, I think you already said it. Like you have to make the commitment to the future. Like if any part of this isn't part of the overall plan and you can move it down the road symbiotically, then that resistance point will break you, right? You'll go like this and you won't snap back. Where ours was very symbiotic. They went together to get to a further point. To your other point, all it did was put, there was 200 pounds on the bar to bench press and you didn't know it. And while you're bench pressing it went down, somebody put another 200 pounds on and you're going, thanks for the heads up. Yeah. Emotionally,
capital-wise, just everything, energy. I mean, it's software projects they're complex. I mean, a lot of people think they can just hire a developer and it'll just magically happen. I'm like, no, like you have to be able to tell them user stories. You got to be able to do the testing. And it is one of those costs that you also have to bake in forever because you have to maintain your tech stack. It's not like you just build it and it's a one-time thing. So those are things that anybody who's thinking about building their own technology should contemplate and explore deeply. And talk to people like Mike, who've been down that path, because chances are there were a lot of expensive mistakes made, and you can learn from other people's mistakes as well as the cool things that they did to win. So let's talk about your franchisees. You've got home-based, perfect timing where people are reevaluating their life decisions. Hey, do I want to go sit in a box and work for somebody else and be the last one to get paid? Or would I like to be the first one to get paid and own my own business? So I see the timing of a home-based business just being spot on. Who are the types of operators? Are they a lot of people that have a coaching background like yourself, or they're into athletics? Like, or are they all over the place in terms of kind of the stereotypical franchisee that has decided to get into, the brand with you?
Yeah, I think we have two types. I think we have our owner operator type, and then we have a semi-absentee. And so about 50% of our units out there are a 3-pack that we call it, or an individual. So I think some of the separation happens there in experience and goals. Like, do you want one or do you want 3? What does that look like? What is your skill set? But the 5 characteristics that we identify and we base our whole thing on is self-starter. They're working from home. They got to be competitive, right? Because the business world's shaking and moving. If your feelings get hurt or you're worried about competitors, you're going to get stuck. They've got to be organized, right? They've got to be coachable. And then they have to have empathy. And that's what makes this kind of unique, to answer your question, because you could look at this as a home-based business that's outbound direct selling going into schools, but you also have to have the empathy for the kids. And so I used to contrast those the first 2 years, and we created all these complicated things because I've been a college recruiter for baseball, and you get all this information. And really, all the years into it, here's what I would say. If I had one thing that I could pick in one person, I would try to find the most competitive people possible.
Really?
Because you'll win all day with those people.
Right.
And so that's what I think our reps are, is very, very competitive. And sure, we have business owners. We have a lot of people that have been in sales, that have managed sales teams. Those are our 3-pack people, because they have some skills, but they want to be their own owner, right? And then we have the coaches, former NFL players. We have the people that are drawn to the athlete and the experience part, but we also have the business acumen side, because we have a high EBITDA and a high residual rate. So we get a little bit of both, and everybody's developmental curve is. But the one thing that they all have in common, the best ones, is they're competitive.
Right. Competitive against themselves too. Like if you're the type of person who, my goal every day is to wake up and do 1% better in everything that I do. And, you add that up over a year, it's like 34% increase in performance or whatever it is that you're measuring. So getting people that are competitive against themselves, competitive against maybe the other franchisees. And that's part of what I love, man. Like, I think about the two offices at my last company, the two locations, who would always swap back and forth being number one in the company. And they were always such great friends, but also rivals. They're like, no, man, I want to be number one. No, I want to be number one. No, I want to be number one. And the fact that you guys have competition underpinning your business because you're in sports, and sports, there's a winner, there's a loser, unless we're talking about soccer or other sports where people are, I guess football, they can tie now in the NFL, can't they?
Yeah, that's weird. Yeah. Can't tie in the UFC.
What's that?
Can't tie in mixed martial arts, probably.
No, you can't tie in MMA, which I love. Yeah. I love that. I don't like sports that they can tie on. What's your perspective on that? As an athlete, you probably don't like that either, do you?
No, it's just incomplete. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, all right, we both won, we both lost. It's a weird feeling. Weird feeling. What do you see as the future for you guys? I mean, you've had a ton of wins basically over the past 2 years since you've started franchising. Like, what do you see in the future? I mean, nobody has a crystal ball, but I'm sure you've got some goals and some cool things you'd like to do.
I think it's just raising, it's getting better at what we already do, right? Like there could be all these different things that we try to do, but if we could just be real focused on our two key systems and we just get better at those, because we already know how to solve the problem. We already know the system. So we just want to get better at the system. We just want to execute better and stay focused. And then I think the key to franchising, as a franchisor, the first 2 years, if I could walk it back out, the thing that I probably undervalued is, when I used to have corporate sales reps when we were a regional brand, the transition was made because that was going to be a really hard way to scale, right? So when we brought in people who bought franchises, that implied commitment is there, and it's still there, but it's not as great as I thought it was. And so we've been really intentional about making sure our people are really well coached, like they have somebody available. We develop an emotional connection. There's a pathway to success. And so like one of our most recent things is the mental performance coach for the Atlanta Braves. He's a professional coach with a sports psychology degree. Our owners get coached by him. We have Brian Kane, who's the number one mental performance coach in the world. They get coached by him. And then we have 2 or 3 of the best people in the industry. So you mix that all up, the expertise of the industry, and then people who can really coach people, because that's where entrepreneurs get stuck, is they get lost. And without that coach and without that competitive mindset, we're just going to get lost, right? And we're going to start doing all the things that people do. It's that person's fault. It's this. And we have to teach them mental toughness the first 6 months.
I love that. I've got a friend who owns a franchise system based out of Nicaragua, Height Digital. It's actually, I think, the first franchise in the digital marketing space. Wow. And their mindset coach is my mindset coach. And every single employee in the organization, as well as franchisees, go through their Cornerstone Unbreakable, is what it's called. So Jose Bolaños will lead people through it. It includes ice baths, figuring out what your infinite purpose is. A lot of things that frankly, as an entrepreneur, I used to think, oh, what is that stuff, right? And then I dove into it 18 months ago, and the transformation in terms of performance and getting the mental game right, mental toughness, has caused that level up in all aspects of life. So I love the fact that you've identified that and you've built that as part of your buffet of solutions that you offer. That's kind of always how I think of a franchise. There's a bunch of things on the buffet. We can't force you to eat it, but if you eat one of everything, you're going to be like, you're going to be, don't try to put your own things on the buffet. Like just follow the roadmap. Mm-hmm. But the mental toughness thing, man, like for me, 8 years into entrepreneurship, that's been the biggest unlock. And so it's super encouraging to hear that you guys not only value that, but have invested in it for your entire team.
Yeah, I hear Robert Kiyosaki talks about like entrepreneurship, and he says it's a mindset first, it's a skill set, and then it's a different set of rules. And I believe it. I believe it in that order, right? Yeah. You have to develop the mindset of an entrepreneur, and then the particular skills that you need to develop for that system. And then you have to realize, as an entrepreneur, I have different rules, and that's to your advantage if you understand those rules.
Absolutely.
And most people don't. And so
no. Yeah. We're all entrepreneurs who play a different game than Joe Public. I mean, that's what I always, every time I drive on my 3-mile commute to my house, I'm solving problems. I'm seeing business opportunities. Like if you could see the not the speech balloon, but the one that looks like a cloud, right? In cartoons where you're thinking, I'm like, man, if anybody could see what I was thinking just on the drive home, they would think I was they would think I was mentally ill.
Right.
But that's like our superpower as entrepreneurs, is that we look at the world through different lenses. We see opportunities. We're problem solvers. We're used to value creation and can typically do all of those things in a lot of different scenarios. Are you finding that a lot of your franchisees are first-time business owners?
Most of them are.
Like this is their first one. Yeah. How do you deal with that?
Most of them that we inherit too are the amount of poor sales training that people get really surprised me too.
I understand. I totally understand. Yeah, man. It's really, really, really the mindset game, man. Like if we get our mindset right, like I believe that anything is possible. Literally anything is possible. So this will be cool. And the fact that you're taking new people under your wings and giving them a shot at the business ownership, like that's just, to me, that's one of the coolest things that we get to do as franchisors is help people get into entrepreneurship who've never been there before, reduce that risk for them by providing the buffet and the solutions that they need to be able to be healthy business owners. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's super, super cool. If people want to learn, like, let's say maybe somebody's, I've got to think that there's somebody who's listening who's competitive. They check those 5 things that you mentioned, you guys look for, and are looking for kind of a not resource intensive type of business opportunity. Where would be the best place for them to go to learn more about what you guys are up to?
Yeah. The readable stuff is just on our website at www.fundraisingu.net, just the letter U, not the word. Mm-hmm. There's great testimonials on there. There's specifics about, financials. You can hear from coaches. You can hear from people. You can look at our training. You can see what we do. We're really pretty proud of that. Then you can always reach out to me. Like I do the franchise development personally, right? Because I was once told that, if you're not spending time finding the best people, you're spending the time in the wrong places. And so I personally get involved and get a coach and learn and work and learn from other people. And so they can reach out to me too directly at my cell phone number, which is 402-680-5029. And I'm not afraid to talk about what we do because I love it. So I love to hear from people.
That's awesome. You're the first guest who's given out their mobile phone number on the show. Mike, this has been a breath of fresh air. I love what you guys are doing. I'm super thankful that your timing of opening in 2020 ended up being net positive for your company. Because not everybody had that experience. Thank you so much for taking time out of your schedule to visit with us. I really enjoyed the conversation today.
Yeah, thanks for letting us do this and getting to share what we do to help kids. I appreciate it.
My pleasure. Ladies and gentlemen, if you enjoyed today's conversation with Mike, and maybe there's one person in your life who would benefit from hearing his story, go ahead and send a text to that person right now, text this episode over. And then just my second ask is, if you find value in what we're doing at Franchise My Business, go ahead and hit subscribe on the platform we're listening to now. For now, I'm your host, Kevin Oldham. This is Franchise My Business. Be well, have a phenomenal week, and until next time.